Discipline is the foundation of transformation because it provides the structure required for real lasting growth. Without discipline, change becomes temporary, progress becomes inconsistent, and goals remain distant. Transformation isn't something that happens suddenly or by accident. It is shaped by the decisions you make every single day. Discipline turns those decisions into patterns, and those patterns eventually reshape your identity. When you adopt discipline, you begin to build a new version of yourself from the inside out, brick by brick, habit by habit. The truth is, transformation demands stability. People often say they want to change, but change without discipline becomes nothing more than a moment of inspiration. Inspiration might start the process, but inspiration alone cannot carry you through the difficult stretches. Discipline becomes the stabilizing force that keeps you moving even when motivation fades, when the excitement disappears, and when the journey begins to feel heavy. This consistency is the difference between talking about transformation and actually living through it. Every breakthrough you seek in life requires discipline because discipline is the vehicle that transports you from intention to execution. You can want to grow, want to improve, and want to achieve more, but wanting is never enough. Wanting doesn't change you, doing does. And discipline ensures you keep doing what needs to be done, regardless of circumstances. It keeps your actions aligned with your vision long enough for that vision to take form in your reality. Transformation also requires sacrifice, and discipline strengthens your ability to make those sacrifices without hesitation. When you are disciplined, you stop choosing what is easy and start choosing what is necessary. That shift is what unlocks real change. You begin saying no to distractions, no to temporary comfort, and no to anything that pulls you away from the future you're building. Discipline makes these sacrifices feel purposeful instead of painful because you understand what they are producing in your life. Another reason discipline becomes the foundation of transformation is that it rewires your mind. Every time you practice discipline, you train your brain to associate effort with reward, consistency with progress, and self-control with empowerment. You stop being controlled by impulses and start guiding your life through intention. This mental shift becomes the engine behind every long-term transformation because you begin to operate from a mindset of strength rather than reaction. As you remain disciplined, you start seeing changes that others cannot see yet. Small improvements, small wins, small moments of growth that begin stacking up over time. These quiet victories become proof that transformation is happening even if it's not visible to the world. Discipline teaches you to trust the process instead of rushing it. It builds patience, persistence, and resilience. Three qualities that are essential for achieving anything meaningful. Discipline also builds credibility with yourself. Every time you keep a promise you made to yourself, you strengthen your self-trust. And transformation requires deep self-trust because you cannot build a new version of yourself while doubting the one who is building it. Discipline helps you believe in your ability to follow through, and that belief becomes fuel for more growth. When you trust yourself, you stop holding back and start expanding into your full potential. Through discipline, you begin to eliminate the behaviors that kept you stuck. Procrastination, inconsistency, self-doubt, excuses. These are all symptoms of a life lacking structure. As discipline grows stronger, these habits lose their power. You replace them with new behaviors that align with who you want to become. Transformation is not only about adding new habits, but also about removing the habits that hold you back. And discipline is what allows you to do both. The impact of discipline extends beyond your personal goals and into every area of your life. It impacts your relationships, your finances, your health, your mindset, and your daily routines. When discipline becomes part of who you are, it influences how you show up in the world. You start operating from a higher level of responsibility and integrity. People begin to feel the change in you because you move differently, think differently, and respond differently to challenges. Ultimately, discipline becomes the anchor that keeps your transformation steady. It grounds you when life becomes chaotic, strengthens you when your confidence wavers, and guides you when you lose direction. Transformation is not a one-time event, but a continuous becoming. And discipline is the force that keeps that becoming in motion. Motivation starts a journey. But discipline sustains it because motivation is often born from emotion, while discipline is built from commitment. Motivation feels electrifying at the beginning. It lights a fire inside you, fills you with energy, and pushes you to take the first step. But that fire can fade quickly when faced with obstacles, discomfort, or delayed results. Discipline, on the other hand, doesn't depend on how you feel. It keeps you moving even when excitement disappears. It replaces emotional highs with steady action, making sure you stay on the path long enough to see real progress. Motivation thrives on inspiration, videos, quotes, success stories, moments that spark a desire for change. But inspiration alone cannot carry you through the difficult parts of growth. Those moments when tiredness sets in, when discouragement hits, when the results are slower than you hoped, motivation tends to disappear. Discipline steps in when motivation retreats. It becomes the force that reminds you of your purpose when your emotions have forgotten it. It transforms your goals from emotional impulses into daily obligations you are committed to honoring. When you start a journey, whether it's improving your health, learning a skill, building a business, or changing your mindset, motivation is the energy that makes everything feel possible. But as the journey continues, discipline is the structure that keeps everything from collapsing. It is the system you create around your goals, the routines, the habits, the non-negotiables that make forward movement inevitable. Discipline turns your ambition into consistent behavior, and consistent behavior is what produces long-term transformation. Discipline matters because every meaningful goal requires endurance. No great achievement is built overnight, and nothing worthwhile arrives without resistance. Motivation doesn't have the stamina to withstand that resistance for long. Discipline does. Discipline keeps you going through the repetitive days, the slow days, the frustrating days. It teaches you to value the process as much as the outcome. It allows you to build momentum when motivation is nowhere to be found. One of the greatest challenges in life is learning how to keep moving when you don't feel like it. Motivation encourages movement when conditions are favorable. But discipline commands movement regardless of conditions. Discipline doesn't ask if you're tired. It doesn't ask if you're in the mood. It simply requires action. This is why the people who rely solely on motivation make progress only when they feel inspired, while the people who rely on discipline make progress every day, regardless of their emotional state. As you grow, you begin to realize that motivation is a spark, not a strategy. It can ignite your passion, but it cannot sustain your progress. The habits you build through discipline begin to work even when you don't. They become automatic behaviors that move you forward without requiring constant emotional energy. Over time, those habits become part of your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who is consistent, someone who shows up even when things get difficult. Discipline also protects you from the illusions of instant gratification. Motivation can tempt you to chase quick results, but discipline teaches you patience. It teaches you to embrace the long game. It teaches you that slow, steady, consistent effort is far more powerful than short bursts of enthusiastic action. This mindset shift is crucial because it removes the pressure of perfection and replaces it with the power of persistence. There are days when motivation will feel strong and days when it will disappear completely. This emotional fluctuation is normal. What matters is that discipline provides stability. Discipline keeps your goals alive when your feelings cannot. It becomes a reminder of the promises you made to yourself and the person you are becoming. With discipline, you build a future that isn't dependent on your mood, but on your mindset. The relationship between motivation and discipline is similar to the relationship between starting and finishing. Motivation gets you to take the first step, but discipline is what helps you cross the finish line. People who master both understand that motivation gives direction while discipline provides endurance. They know that success isn't about feeling inspired every day, but about doing what needs to be done, even on the days you feel nothing at all. In the end, what truly defines your growth is not how excited you were at the beginning, but how consistent you remain throughout the journey. Discipline ensures that your goals remain active, your progress continues, and your transformation unfolds. Your standards dictate your future because the level you choose to operate from determines the quality of your life. When you tolerate mediocrity, you create a future filled with mediocre results. But when you elevate your standards, how you think, how you act, how you show up, you create a future that reflects excellence. Your standards become the invisible rules that govern your decisions, your habits, your relationships, and ultimately your destiny. They shape the life you experience long before you realize it. Every decision you make is filtered through the standards you hold for yourself. If your standards are low, you'll settle for less, accept excuses, and allow distractions to steal your time. If your standards are high, you'll demand more from yourself, aim higher, and refuse to compromise on what matters. This isn't about perfection, it's about alignment. The life you want and the standards you live by must match. If they don't, your future will reflect the standards, not the dreams. Your standards define what you consider acceptable. They determine whether you stay stuck in old patterns or rise into new levels of growth. A person with elevated standards doesn't wait for opportunities, they prepare for them. They don't hope for better outcomes, they build better habits. They don't blame circumstances, they adjust their behavior. This internal shift transforms the external world because life always rises to meet the expectations you demand from yourself. When you raise your standards, you raise the quality of the choices you make. You begin choosing discipline over comfort, consistency over convenience, and progress over procrastination. These choices may feel small in the moment, but they accumulate into massive long-term results. Every day becomes a reflection of what you believe you deserve. Every action becomes a vote for the future you're creating. Your standards become the compass that keeps your life moving in the right direction. High standards also protect your time and energy. They teach you to say no more often to the wrong people, the wrong habits, and the wrong environments. When you decide that your energy is valuable, you start guarding it more carefully. You stop giving access to anyone or anything that drains your growth. This selectivity isn't selfish, it's strategic. Your future depends on what you allow into your present, and elevated standards ensure you choose wisely. Your standards influence the relationships you attract as well. People who value growth, discipline, and purpose naturally gravitate toward others with similar standards. The opposite is also true. If you allow disrespect, inconsistency, or low-effort behavior into your life, you invite more of it. By raising your standards, you set the tone for how others treat you. You show people what you are willing to accept and what you are not. This shapes the emotional environment you live in every day. The standards you set for your work, your character, your integrity, and your commitments shape the reputation you build. Over time, this reputation becomes a key that opens doors or closes them. People trust those who maintain high standards, who stay accountable, who follow through, who show up consistently. Opportunities naturally find their way to individuals who operate with excellence because excellence stands out in a world full of shortcuts. When life challenges you, your standards determine your response. Someone with low standards will fold under pressure, blame circumstances, and give up easily. Someone with high standards will rise, adapt, learn, and keep moving forward. Their standards won't allow them to stay down for long. They refuse to quit because quitting violates the principles they live by. These are the people who experience breakthroughs, not because they face fewer challenges, but because they face challenges with a different level of expectation. Your standards even influence how you see yourself. When you raise them, you change your self-image. You begin to see yourself as someone capable, disciplined, intentional, and worthy of more. And when your self-image elevates, so does your behavior. You act in alignment with the identity you hold. You stop thinking like the old version of yourself and start stepping into the person you're becoming. This internal transformation builds a future that matches your new identity. In every area of life, your standards silently shape your results. They define your habits, your mindset, your environment, your growth, and your direction. They are the invisible blueprint for your future, determining not only what you achieve, but also who you become along the way. Emotion cannot lead your destiny because emotions are temporary, unstable, and easily influenced by circumstances, while your destiny requires decisions grounded in clarity and conviction. When emotions take control, your direction becomes unpredictable. One moment you're confident, the next moment you're doubting everything. One moment you're driven, the next moment you're overwhelmed. Destiny requires steadiness, but emotions fluctuate too quickly to provide that stability. If you let them lead, your life becomes reactive instead of intentional. Emotions can motivate action, but they cannot sustain it. They can inspire you to start something new, but they cannot guarantee you'll follow through when challenges appear. When emotions are high, everything feels possible. But when emotions drop, so does your commitment, unless you've made a decision anchored in discipline and purpose. Destiny is shaped by consistent choices, not emotional impulses, and that consistency can only come from a deeper internal commitment. When emotions lead, small problems feel like impossible obstacles. A temporary setback becomes a reason to quit. A minor inconvenience becomes a major excuse, and a moment of discomfort becomes a justification to run back to old habits. This emotional leadership destroys progress because your feelings are not built to carry the weight of your future. Your feelings want comfort. Your destiny requires courage. The two rarely align, which is why emotion cannot be the driver. Emotion often pulls you in the direction of what feels good right now rather than what builds a stronger future. It wants shortcuts, instant gratification, and quick relief. But destiny demands delayed gratification, sacrifice, and long-term vision. When emotions take control, long-term goals get replaced by short-term impulses. You begin choosing what is easy instead of what is necessary. That misalignment becomes a trap that keeps you stuck in cycles of inconsistency. When you allow emotions to lead, you become vulnerable to outside influence. One negative comment can derail your confidence. One setback can break your momentum. One mistake can convince you that you're unworthy of growth. Emotions can turn someone else's opinion into your limitation. They can turn fear into your identity. They can turn doubt into your decision maker. Destiny cannot be built on something so fragile. Emotion reacts, purpose responds. Reacting is impulsive, uncontrolled, and driven by the moment. Responding is deliberate, thoughtful, and guided by the outcome you want. When you shift from emotional reactions to purposeful responses, you reclaim control over your direction. You begin to lead your life instead of being led by whatever you happen to feel that day. This shift is the difference between living day to day and building a destiny. Emotions are powerful signals, but they are terrible leaders. They can alert you, warn you, guide you, or teach you, but they cannot drive your decisions. When you feel frustrated, it means something needs attention. When you feel afraid, it means something matters. When you feel excited, it means something holds potential. These signals are valuable, but they only serve you when you interpret them, not when you obey them blindly. You must be the one in control. When emotions no longer dictate your choices, you begin to build emotional strength. You learn to take action even when you are afraid. You learn to stay disciplined even when you feel lazy. You learn to be consistent even when you feel unmotivated. This emotional strength becomes one of the greatest assets in your journey because it frees you from being controlled by passing moods or temporary discomfort. Your destiny requires a leader, someone who can see beyond the moment, beyond the mood, beyond the feeling. That leader must be you. You must be the one who decides your direction based on your principles, your standards, and your purpose. You must develop a level of self-control strong enough to override emotional impulses. When you do, you take back the power to shape your life with intention instead of emotion. The emotions you feel today will not be the same emotions you feel tomorrow, but the decisions you make today will shape who you become tomorrow. Let your destiny be guided by vision, discipline, and purpose, not by whatever emotion happens to appear in the moment. Consistency beats talent because talent without discipline becomes wasted potential, while consistency turns even average ability into exceptional results. Talent may give someone an early advantage, but consistency determines who finishes strong. The person who shows up every day, practices deliberately, and improves steadily will always outgrow the person who depends solely on natural ability. Consistency transforms effort into mastery and mastery into success. Talent can make things easier at the beginning, but it cannot replace the hard work required to excel. Many talented people never rise to their full potential because they rely on what comes naturally and resist the effort required to evolve. Meanwhile, the consistent person keeps learning, keeps adapting, keeps refining. Over time, that persistent effort becomes a force talent cannot compete with. Consistency builds habits, and habits create momentum. Consistency makes you reliable. It turns your actions into routines and your routines into lifestyle. When something becomes part of your lifestyle, you no longer depend on motivation to do it. You don't need inspiration, you need commitment. Consistency removes the emotional decision-making from your progress and replaces it with automatic discipline. Talent may spark attention, but consistency earns respect. The power of consistency lies in repetition. Every time you practice, study, train, or push yourself, you add another layer to your skill set. Even small improvements compound when repeated daily. Someone with moderate talent who practices consistently will pass the naturally gifted person who practices occasionally. Life rewards those who refuse to stop, not those who were merely born gifted. Consistency also strengthens your resilience. When you show up repeatedly, you build mental toughness. You learn to fight through boredom, frustration, fatigue, and doubt. These moments refine your character more than talent ever could. Talent is comfortable, consistency is challenging, and it is the challenge that shapes you into someone who can handle obstacles, failures, and setbacks without losing momentum. There is power in doing the right things even when you don't feel like it. The ability to continue despite your emotions, circumstances, or environment is what separates high achievers from everyone else. Most people wait for motivation, but consistent people create their own momentum by simply showing up. They understand that success is not built on occasional intensity, but on repeated effort. Talent can make you impressive at the start, but consistency makes you unstoppable over time. When you commit to steady progress, you become dangerous, not because you are the most talented, but because you are the most persistent. People underestimate consistent individuals because the progress seems slow at first, but slow progress becomes massive breakthroughs when multiplied across months and years. Consistency also teaches humility. It forces you to accept that growth is a process, that mastery requires patience, and that real success takes time. Talented people often struggle with this truth because they expect their natural ability to carry them. Consistent people embrace the long game. They value every step, every lesson, every challenge, because they know each one is contributing to their evolution. By being consistent, you become someone others can count on. You build a reputation for reliability, perseverance, and excellence. People begin to trust you because you have proven through your actions, not your words, that you can be counted on. This trust opens doors that talent alone can never unlock. Opportunities seek out consistent people because consistency ensures execution. Over time, consistency reshapes your identity. You go from someone who tries to someone who follows through, from someone who starts to someone who finishes, from someone with potential to someone who produces results. Talent may set the stage, but consistency writes the script. You shape your future through daily habits because the small choices you make each day quietly build the direction your life will eventually follow. Your future is not determined by one big moment of decision, but by hundreds of small moments where you either reinforce growth or repeat old patterns. Habits become the silent architects of your destiny, shaping your mindset, your actions, your discipline, and ultimately the results you experience. The life you want is not created someday, it is created every day. Every habit you practice sends a message to your future. When you choose habits that support your goals, you create momentum that pulls you forward. When you choose habits that distract or delay, you create resistance that holds you back. Even the smallest routines, how you start your morning, how you use your time, how you respond to challenges, shape the person you are becoming. These habits are like seeds planted daily, and over time they grow into the reality you live in. Daily habits matter because they shape your identity. When you repeatedly act in a certain way, you start to see yourself as the kind of person who does those things. If you show up for yourself consistently, you build the identity of someone disciplined, strong, and intentional. If you repeatedly break promises to yourself, you begin to see yourself as inconsistent or uncommitted. Your identity follows your habits, and your future follows your identity. The beauty of daily habits is that they don't require perfection. They require consistency. You don't need to overhaul your entire life at once. You need to choose small actions that compound over time. Reading a few pages a day, exercising for a few minutes, learning something new each morning, practicing a skill regularly. These small steps, repeated over months and years, lead to massive transformation. The compound effect of consistent habits is one of the most powerful forces in personal growth. Daily habits also shape your priorities. How you spend your time reveals what you truly value, not what you say you value. If you dedicate time to growth, your life moves forward. If you dedicate time to distractions, your life stays the same. Habits become the proof of your commitment to your future. They are the daily choices where you either invest in yourself or neglect your potential. Your future reflects those investments. Your habits also determine how you respond to challenges. When you repeatedly practice discipline, patience, and problem solving, these behaviors become automatic during stressful moments. Instead of collapsing under pressure, you become someone who stays grounded and focused. Good habits build resilience, and resilience is essential for navigating the difficulties that stand between you and your goals. Your future cannot be built without learning how to face challenges effectively. Daily habits influence the opportunities that come your way. People who maintain strong habits, whether in learning, working, leading, or growing, position themselves to receive opportunities others are not prepared for. They make steady, consistent progress that others notice. Over time, these habits raise your value, increase your capacity, and open doors that were once out of reach. Preparation meets opportunity in the form of daily discipline. Your habits also shape your mindset. Repetition strengthens belief. When you consistently follow habits that support growth, you develop a mindset of possibility and confidence. You begin to trust yourself, knowing you can rely on your actions. This inner trust becomes a powerful force because it removes doubt and replaces it with certainty. When you believe in your ability to follow through, you stop fearing the future and start building it intentionally. The structure of your day eventually becomes the structure of your life. The routines you build today become the patterns you live tomorrow. Your habits determine your energy, your focus, your productivity, your emotional health, and your overall direction. When your habits are aligned with your future goals, you create a clear path toward them. When they are misaligned, your future becomes filled with unnecessary struggle and stagnation. Your future is not shaped by your wishes or intentions, but by your habits. Every day, through your actions, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. Some days the vote may be small, but it still counts. Over time, those votes accumulate and reveal your path. The habits you build today will decide the opportunities you experience, the person you become, and the life you ultimately create.